Hello, hello, hello. I am again attorney Michael Ehline. I am a personal injury attorney licensed in both Texas and California. I do civil rights cases as well, but the reason I'm here is because I believe that an injustice has been done to somebody who I consider a friend, Chille Decastro. I'm not here to talk about his past or why you hate him. I'm here to talk about what actually happened in court and prior thereto. And today I have Jay. He's another auditor. He's going to be coming on with me to talk about it. So really quick, I just want to finish up. And by the way, today is going to be what are the grounds on appeal for Chille, if any? And then just like an open mic type discussion, like PennsylvaniaVMimms or any of that kind of stuff. So just really quick, let me just finish up the video from yesterday because I promised you I would.
Travesty of justice. This is exactly what it is, a travesty of justice, because a man doesn't like cops or their aggressive and deadly actions.
I agree
against
100%.
Americans committed every single day.
I'm
Please
surprised
take
he
some
didn't
time to
throw a
leave your
fit
thoughts
when they were
about
putting the
this in
cuffs on him.
comments below. For those who hate Chille,
Yeah.
do you really think this was just?
Well, I think he knew better, because
Yeah.
then he could, but we'll keep playing it.
If you do, please explain. And for those of you who love Chille, what are your views? Do you really think he should have acted like that in court? Was it to his benefit? The bottom line is, does anybody really believe a man should be sitting in jail for a half a year when clearly no crime was committed and the cop lied? I'll see you in the next video.
All right. Well, so I found out today, by the way, I agree with this guy. Here's the deal. I discovered today, I don't know if it's true, that here's the deal as a former lawyer. And I would venture to say that he was, because I'll tell you what, that video, I don't know about you, Jay. By the way, I want to introduce you to Jay. Jay is a former U.S. Marine, and he's also an auditor. And I just think he's a cool guy. And he's also not a Chille BJ guy. Like, he's not a 100% on board with everything Chille does, as nor am I. But we both believe that the guy got railroaded. So I have Jay on, and hey, Jay, tell us what your channel is.
Oh, I don't have a channel. I'm just a paralegal.
Okay,
Yeah,
so Jay,
Yeah,
all right, even better.
I do legal research for civil rights cases for prisoners out of Texas.
Outstanding. So
Yep.
Jay's a paralegal. Doesn't even have a channel. He's got no skin in the game at all. He's not biased. But he thinks that Chille got railroaded too. And I just, if he's a jarhead, of course I want to have him on because we're typically pretty manly, and we don't look at it from the point of view of like a wuss. We look at it more like, how would we handle this? So Jay doesn't agree with what went down. All right, let's just see what's going on in the comments here. So there's a lot of negative comments about people who think Chille should be like sexually assaulted and stuff like that in jail. And it just people who just really hate him. I just want to tell you guys, I just want you to remember, if something bad ever happens to you, do you think that you really want people talking like that? Especially when there's a dispute over the liability. Remember, this case isn't over yet by any stretch of the imagination.
It can happen to anybody in the blink of an eye. I mean, just because you think you're in the right, whatever, 2 seconds you could be in jail sitting next to Chille. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to agree. It could happen to anybody. So which I think is one of these people who is like a Marxist or anti-American communist, always has these comments to make, like, you're not manly, you're not this, you're not that. And so, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here. Let me see here. Let me see here. You must care too much. Well, I don't know what that person's trying to say, but you never sent me an email asking for my side. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on here, because a lot of these people, I think they think that I just spend all day long looking at auditor videos. So everybody, so I do catastrophic injury cases. I do a little bit of appellate work still. So most of my clients are people who are involved in catastrophic accidents, like train accidents, people run over by a train or a car hit by a train, kind of like Matt Hughes, how he got run over by the train in Texas, those kinds of cases. But when I was growing up, I was one of the first guys who would start questioning these traffic infractions, like trying to figure out, well, if it's not a crime, right? If it's not a crime, then why don't, right? If it's civil, then why can't I handle this civilly? But if it's a crime, why am I not able to have the same protections as a criminal would? Why don't I get discovery, right? So I would question that, and I would win a little more than half of those cases, but it was always the judge that was the enemy, so to speak. They always just supported whatever the state said. One judge called me a crazy person who likes to waste the court's time. So that's your judge, your neutral arbitrator, right? And I got that judge in a lot of trouble and won that case because I brought in a certified court reporter, and she wrote everything down. Wasn't a stenographer. She just wrote everything down the judge said, and we filed the motion. That case was dismissed immediately. So I just want you all to know that the whole traffic law scheme originally was designed to raise revenue. It's for a commercial purpose. It was never about safety, ever. And the problem that we have here is we have two sides. We have the law enforcement side, and then we have the victim side, unfortunately. And it really shouldn't be that way. Law enforcement is just as much of a victim as we are, because they're following out the edicts of politicians like Eric Gardner. So the Eric Gardner case, Jay, this was that case where he was selling loose cigarettes. Like, they drive across to Jersey and, right, sell a loose cigarette because all the store owners are pissed off, and they're the ones who donate money to all the politicians.
I followed that closely.
Yeah. I can't breathe. Right. So these cops are enforcing these outrageous laws. Like, you can't have a loose cigarette unless you pay the state tax, right? Because we got to pay for all the free hotels for all the illegals. So you got to make sure you get those taxes to pay for all the illegal aliens. They're going to redistrict all the red states blue with the census. So
just a modern day Stamp Act is all that is. And look how that turned out.
Well, yeah, but modernly, the difference is what we all have to remember, guys, is that Rockefeller went ahead and stole the Prussian school model and basically convinced all of the different school districts to buy into it, till eventually a law was passed that we had to basically follow that same model. So you have a bunch of really brainwashed, pro-government, whatever politicians say, kids coming out. And you'll see that, right? Like, as soon as they put the rainbow flag up, all of a sudden 40% of the females in public schools identify as transsexual or gay or something. It's interesting because you never see that with the Amish, because they raise their own kids. They don't let the state raise their kids. So you can see how much influence the government has, but it's not really the government, it's politicians, right? So we got to distinguish that. So I just want the cops to know that you're just as much of a victim as the people that you arrest, because you're enforcing edicts and laws that are oftentimes unconstitutional and unlawful. But when you're on short time and you're for your retirement, be honest with me. Put it in the comments if there's any honest police officers. If one of your supervisors said, "Hey, you're not gonna get your retirement unless you violate this person's rights," do you think your wife is going to be happy that you can't, support you guys when you're like 70 and probably have bad knees from chasing perps down? I just want you guys to understand something. Jay and I are jarheads. We're kindred spirits with law enforcement, but we think that you've been duped too by a lot of these crazy laws. So anyways, we got this guy, Con Conspiracy, says F around and find out. Chille showed no respect. Okay, great. It's funny how haters are attacking people for no reason. Okay. So I love that. Free Chille. By the way, everybody put FC in the sidebar so we know that you want a free Chille. Now, Jay, one of the reasons I had you on here is I wanted to get your observations, but really quick, because I did put as the basis for this hangout to be about grounds on appeal. Well, I wanted to see what you think Chille's grounds are on appeal. And this is, again, I'm a California and Texas lawyer. Jay is a Texas paralegal. This is not legal advice, okay? Everything that we're doing is separate and apart from what we do. at our law firms and the stuff that we do. We're just doing this because we're a couple of jarheads. We took an oath to uphold the Constitution. And we think that not just people like Chille are getting duped, but we think cops are getting screwed too. So with that being said, Jay, tell us, what do you think, man? What do you think, Double Dog? What do you think that Chille's potential grounds on appeal could be? And then put it in the comments, everyone else. Go ahead.
I think he's going to have a really hard time on appeal due to his lawyer being kind of crappy, because he didn't object to anything. And when the prosecutor objected to, he didn't argue the objections. Of course, that judge ruled very quickly.
Yeah.
Didn't give him a chance to argue the objection or anything like that, especially when he was trying to lay the foundation for his defense, his First Amendment defense. She immediately shut him down and he just went with it. So they kind of railroaded him on that. So how can he appeal something that he didn't object to? So,
well, rights not claimed are considered waived. That's true. Now, so one thing I noticed is there was like a motion of points and authorities that the lawyer filed the day before the hearing. And of course the judge denied that. I don't know if that would have had any value at all. It kind of looked like the judge had already made up her mind that he was going to jail anyways. But,
as soon as he called that bailiff a pig, she made up her mind.
Right.
I mean, her mind.
Yeah.
She started automatically grabbing paperwork, and I think she was going to find him in contempt, and then realized that she could do the same thing with sentencing. So
that's kind of what I was thinking. But honestly, I think there would have been less of a chance of her being found liable by the appellate court for abuse of discretion had she issued a contempt order, because he never did apologize to the bailiff.
Yep.
From what I saw,
he's got abuse of discretion, but we all know how that usually turns out. They usually rule in the judge's favor unless there's just something super blatant and everything. I haven't looked. I don't know if he has any grounds for a habeas corpus or anything like that. But I mean, I think his lawyer just did a really crappy job. You know, the guy that made this video I could have litigated that. It doesn't look like he even looked at the video, did any type of research on the video or anything. But
yeah,
I think maybe Chille was kind of hamstringing him though too, because he went in as standby, and she denied that. She said, "You're either going to represent him or he's going to represent himself." Basically.
All right. So Jay, let me kind of like try to educate the audience. So look, I'm not a Nevada guy, but in California, you have the ability to bring in another attorney as like a friend of the court. Friend of the court. So if you think you're reasonably competent to handle your own case, you might want to, bring in almost like co-counsel, because most courts don't want you to be able to represent yourself because they know that you could argue on appeal that you were not competent. But because ineffective assistance of counsel can apply to you too, not just the lawyer that you hired.
That's a hard row to hoe there. You're going to have a hard time proving ineffective assistance of counsel when you represent yourself.
I think so too. Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why they go through all that questions and answers. And do you have, they make sure that you are actually at least halfway competent to represent yourself.
That's right.
Or they will appoint standby counsel.
And they also have to give you deference too under Balistreri versus Pacifica Police Department, a Ninth Circuit case. It says Court of Appeals have a duty to ensure that pro se litigants won't lose a fair hearing on the merits of their claim due to ignorance of technical or procedural requirements.
Right.
I used to be really good at like rote memorization of these cases. Right. It's been a while, but so the deal is when you represent yourself, the courts have to give you more leeway too, and they don't like doing that. Yeah. I
work with a lot of pro se guys on 1983s, and it's usually a long struggle.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you, man. But so what do you think the strongest argument on appeal that Chille has? Do you think it's ineffective assistance of counsel? And
it would have to be.
Seems like that's the only argument, right?
Because he, like I said, he didn't object to anything. The officer was blatantly lying. Could have been proven simply, just by replaying the video back. And, you know, his cross-examination was super weak. Super weak.
What about the part where the prosecutor, by the way, I don't have the video queued up, unfortunately, because it just came to mind, but what about the part when the prosecutor said, well, we can all agree that the record that's been presented is the accurate record? She said, basically, she got, in my opinion, she got the defendant's counsel by acquiescence to agree whatever record was presented and whatever facts that were agreed to were valid.
Prosecutorial misconduct, maybe.
I don't know. It just sounds like it just sounds like she basically got the other side to acquiesce that everything was true and correct. And what we saw wasn't true and correct. I mean, the officer clearly said a couple of inches when he was finally pressed on backing up. But just like Here's the Deal said, you know, in the closing argument, this is how I would have handled it. At the same token, guys, it's easy to be an armchair general and criticize and put down lawyers and make fun of them and say they didn't do things right. But when you're under heat, under pressure, and under stress, it happens. But if it was me and I was the lawyer on this case, I would definitely bow out and say, yeah, I screwed up, and try to get this guy out of jail based on what I've seen on the record. I think
she intimidated him a little bit. Looked like he was intimidated by her for some weird reason.
Yeah, well, Mikey B says that Ann Zimmerman's mind was made up before he got into the courtroom, and a lot of people are telling me that. And look, that could be true, because when I would fight traffic tickets when I was 18, 19 years old, the judges basically acted as judge advocate generals. They acted as prosecutor, DA, and public defender all in one. And they were all friends with the cops. Cops go to their Christmas parties. Bailiffs are all their friends. They're all buddies. The government signs their check. So of course there's going to be a relationship there. So a lot of people are saying it was really more political, like she had no choice.
Right.
And probably, she's probably just going to let the appellate court decide. I don't know. What do you think, Jay?
Well, like I said, I think her mind was made up, because it's obvious they knew who he was. I think the cop even knew who he was. I think he was full of crap saying that he didn't know who he was. I mean, the minute he walked up there and started filming, he knew exactly who he was. And
yeah, I missed that part too in the original case. I don't recall the cop ever saying he didn't know who he was, but other people, oh, you're a terrible lawyer because you didn't point that out. But honestly, I thought that there was no testimony elicited about him knowing the cop or not. But
and plus there was an instant, just massive amounts of bias when he walked up to the podium, when he walked up to, just automatic bias. She started telling everybody to give up their phones and this and that. And apparently there was a hearing before his, and nobody had to give up their phones and stuff like that, because I think he has been popped for illegally recording before.
Oh, really? In court?
I believe he has. If I'm not mistaken.
One of the people was telling me that there's I think it's a Michigan or a Massachusetts case where Chille's helping one of these auditors. So that's one thing about Chille, guys. I have personal knowledge that Chille does help other auditors who have legal trouble. He'll literally do fundraisers and help them. And that's very rare, very, very rare. So you can say whatever you want about him, but he puts his money where his mouth is. I've seen it with my own eyes. Right. I've literally seen him do this. So one of these people was saying that they'd like to see a FOIA request or a public records request, because they think that the judges are in communication, because the hearing dates were scheduled to be on the same date that Chille was going to be helping this other guy on some constitution law type project. Right. I mean, look, I don't know if it's true, but I wouldn't put it past. Here's the problem that I have with the judiciary. There's supposed to be a separation of powers, but because the court is so close with their staff, and law enforcement is basically part of the court, and most judges were probably prosecutors, there's a real tendency to favor the law enforcer and whatever the state's point of view is.
Right.
And that should scare people, in my opinion, Jay, because that's almost like a license to kill in a way. I mean, I could understand why people riot and stuff, especially in Black communities, because they've been railroaded so much, it's easy to get them to riot. Does that make sense?
Yep. And plus they're training these officers now to say these things. And like you said, I think in the last video, you said, the stop resisting thing while they're punching you in the face and stuff. I want to see this in these training manuals, because that cop said, according to our training, we're supposed to tell them to get 21, 15, 30 feet. I want to see this training manual.
Even if they are, it's not the law. So
yeah, that's exactly. His lawyer should have subpoenaed all that. It's like he just rolled out of bed and walked into court. So,
well, I appreciate your observations. I don't know enough about his lawyer or really the case to be able to make an opinion, but I do know enough about what I would have done in California or Texas.
Right.
And I can tell you, I would have, here's the deal. He nailed it, man. I mean, I'm blown away by this guy. And by the way, I did contact, here's the deal, sent him an email to try to get him to come on. I was hoping he would be here next to you, brother. But from what I'm hearing is that he's so high up that he probably doesn't even get emails.
He did a great job though. He put some time into that. That's
what I'm saying, man. Yeah. And the way he was able to get that done.
If that would have happened in Texas, the cop probably would have shot him.
I've heard that from several of my friends who live in Willis.
Yep.
I guess the cops are a little out of control. So Mr. Shigura, which, by the way, initially Mr. Shigura was super, super hostile towards me, but I think he kind of understands that I'm not a psychopath, so maybe he's giving me a little bit of a pass. But he's saying it's not a death sentence; it's only 6 months. But yeah, man, a false conviction is a false conviction,
right?
And there was absolutely no reason for that cop to put his hands on Chille, just because Chille came off like a dick or whatever. And I do believe that he definitely has a really great argument on appeal. A lot of people don't agree with me. That's fine.
It's going to be a hard one, but he has good arguments. But just the way he disrespected the judge by doing this, and she said, I think he hates cops. Well, okay, that has nothing to do with the evidence at hand. That's
right, and that was never an issue. That should have never
before you. That issue was not before her at all. So whether he likes cops, hates cops, or whatever, that had nothing to do with the evidence that was presented and the fact that cop lied blatantly that he didn't back up, and he did.
That's right. And guys, by the way, here's one of the problems with being an attorney is we're not supposed to, it's considered to be improper decorum to make personal insults against a judge in particular. So the only real thing that I can do as a lawyer and still, be reasonably safe so I can still keep helping people with a law license is just to basically say, I think that it was wrongly decided. I think it was unfair, that kind of stuff. I can't really get into any kind of ad hominem stuff, but I wouldn't anyways, because that's not my nature. I don't think personally attacking people helps them. I think that I'm here to get the swing voters, the people who are capable of reason and deduction, who hopefully had a mom and dad that taught them not to believe things just because the government says it's true, because those are definitely not the kind of people I want in my inner circle. I don't know. What about you, Jay?
I agree. Personally attacking the judge is not going to solve anything. We can call her this and call her that. And, outside of that black robe, she may be a perfectly reasonable person. But to me, it looks like somewhere along the lines, somebody pissed her off, and she was she was immediately biased. In my personal opinion, I think she was immediately biased and didn't pay. Sua sponte, she should have automatically said, no, that's wrong. That's
just based on the video, based on the video. Right. She should have known that the cop was not, either the cop was a liar or he just was clueless, but either way, clearly.
I want to know why he went for a bench trial. Like I said, I'm not sure of Nevada law, but why did he go for a bench trial? Surely a reasonable jury would have looked at that and, he could have argued to the jury that, I would have never went to a bench trial, when it's obvious that you hate cops, you hate the judicial system, and you work against them, why would you automatically go to a bench trial instead of a jury trial? Where it's normal people?
So Jay, I got to tell you, I don't know 100% if that's something that he asked for. I know in California, an infraction, you're not entitled to a jury trial,
Right.
but a misdemeanor you are, because there's potential time in jail.
Right.
I don't know how it works in Nevada. I'm sure it's
That's
very
what
similar.
I'd say. I know if you get a traffic ticket, you have no right to a jury trial. So in Texas, if there's jail time involved, you have a right to a jury trial. So I'm not sure of Nevada. So
yeah, so it could be that he asked for a trial by judge because he's had success trying cases before judges in the past. But Nevada's a different ball of wax. It is a law and order state, as they say, and don't confuse law and order with justice. But because the old school law and order was, like Dukes of Hazzard, Boss Hogg, and Roscoe P. Coltrane. That's law and order. So when I say law and order, that's kind of what I mean. Like here, from what I understand, cops can walk into casinos and get free food in the employee lounge. They can get penthouse suites, right? If they're cop of the month, and they get all kinds of other benefits being an LEO, which, hey man, that's totally cool. The problem that I have is, when they're blanket violating constitutional rights, especially being a Marine and knowing how many cops are freaking former Marines, dude. It's like, what are you guys thinking? This guy is clearly engaged in a First Amendment protected activity. Sure, he's going to piss you off, but that's your freaking job to deal with that, brother. He's not a threat to you. And I guarantee you, they all know who he is. Come on.
I don't know. I think he got railroaded, but like I say, I'm not a big fan of Chille. I mean, I like what he stands for. I just don't like the way he does it. I mean, it looks like he antagonizes them, by going in there and yelling, "Get back in your," and
doggy, doggy,
doggy, little doggy, and stuff. You use language like that to an obvious tyrant, they're going to exercise that tyranny. And, they obviously won. So,
yeah, I mean, he's clearly inflaming them, but you know what? Their job is to not get inflamed.
Yep.
It's reality.
They should have that training not to. They knew who he was and they know how he is. So they should have said, "Hey, just stand back over there and everything will be fine," and which he did. So.
Yeah. So Jay, what's the matter? You says, by your logic, the SS police, soldiers, and camp guards were victims of the PolitiVMimms. I get. You know what? That's actually kind of a fair statement. So remember, Hitler pretty much did what they're doing in California. He infiltrated the school system. With Jews are the enemy. Public schools taught that Jews were privileged, and that all the Germans were oppressed and all of the Jews were oppressors. Sounds exactly like critical race theory, because it is. It's cultural Marxism 101.
It's extremely
divide and conquer, and that's exactly what the Germans did. So sure, the guys who joined the SS were brainwashed by the state to think that Jews were their enemy. So yeah, I agree with you. What's the matter, you? Thanks for pointing that out, that the government brainwashes people into hating their fellow citizens, which is precisely what our founding fathers didn't want. Our founding fathers knew that King George did stuff like that. Turning Catholics against Protestants, always had to have an enemy, right?
Yep. There's always got to be a public enemy number one.
Yeah. In this case, it's white males now. Go ahead. Sorry, Jake. Go ahead.
It's straight white males.
Yeah, so. Right. Straight. You got to be straight. Yeah.
So.
No lisp. People that don't speak with a lisp need not apply, right?
Great.
Anyways, but yeah, I mean, some of these people, some of their statements, are accurate. Like the Nazi SS people, they were a product of the German education system, and the German education system was a product of the Prussian education system, which was brought to the United States by the Rockefeller family. And, initially they were saying, hey, we'll give you some money grants if you adopt this education system, right? And then slowly he rolled it out with all his millions of dollars to other jurisdictions. And eventually people were forced to take on this non-classical state-run education system. And now, of course, we know we're on a race to the bottom. Ever since we adopted his system, our education for kids has gone downhill to the point now where Washington just said we're not going to have bar exams anymore because it's offensive to black people and Mexicans, right?
Yep.
But not to Asians, because Asians are white supremacists, apparently. So that's what's going on. If you're doing good in school, you're a white supremacist or anti
whatever
black or whatever, right? But if you're doing bad, you're oppressed because the white man kept you down, or in this case, the Asian man who's now white. So in California, by the way, they also want to eliminate the bar exam. So ever since we've adopted this Prussian education system brought to us by Rockefeller, a globalist, the progenitor of the World Economic Forum, Council on Foreign Relations, all these anti-American globalist organizations that are same people responsible for flooding your country with all these illegal aliens.
I think California is one of the last holdouts that don't use the standard bar exam. I think they still use their old one. I think California is one of the last holdouts, and that's a hard bar exam.
Hey man, it's the hardest test I ever took in my life. In fact, I failed it the first time. I admit it. I passed it on the second attempt. It was hard, man.
Really hard one.
It was super hard. I was so glad I could get waived into Texas for just taking like a 12-hour written. I'm surprised they let you do that. Well, it's because I scored so high on my MCLEs, the multi-state, whatever.
Yeah.
Not MCLEs, but the multi-state.
Multi-state, yeah.
I scored super high on that. So that was like in Texas, that's a big deal. But just a little tip to all y'all who want to take the bar. MCLE, the multi-states are simple. All you have to do is rule out the two answers that are wrong, because for sure you're going to see two that are wrong, and then just choose the one that's most right. And that's how you pass those. And I think I got like almost 100% all the way through, even on the practice exams and all that. So
did California do away with the LSAT?
Well, okay. They still do the LSAT in California, but I think they're going to get rid of all that because they say it's unfair to blacks and Hispanics. Apparently they can't get voter IDs either. So I don't understand it. Why all the white liberals in California think that blacks aren't capable of getting an ID. I don't understand why they think Hispanics aren't as smart as whites or Asians. I married a Latina, and my daughter, she's got a 140 IQ. You know what I mean? Like clearly seems to be okay with us. To me, it's probably the education system, right? So prior to Rockefeller's takeover of our education system, almost 80 to 90% of the American children were literate. All right. Think about that. Now, once we did this race to the bottom with the public school system, by the way, the only thing we do is keep giving public school teachers more money, but yet the scores keep going down. So how do you fix that? Well, just lower the scores, do a race to the bottom, eliminate the test. That's another thing they're doing in California, guys. There's no felonies anymore in San Francisco because we reduced all the $900 felonies, made them misdemeanors. So now they qualify for better insurance rates. You can claim falsely in the real estate disclosure statements that there aren't that many felonies, even though it was a felony last year, right? So that's what's really going on. It's just all the politicians are buddies with these other people. They're 70 to 90% of the money from the teachers unions go to the Democrats. California is a single party state. It became a single party state because of illegal immigration, because they figured out, hey, if we can flood enough illegals into the blue areas, we can split the districts and we can redistrict. And that's exactly what's happening now. There won't even be a need for political parties in a couple, by the time we redistrict, it'd be like 16 million illegals, right?
Crazy gerrymandering and
the gerrymandering. Yeah. So let's see here. Chile was doing Ramadan with the Muslims. Hey, that's cool, man. I don't got a problem with that. I know Chile likes to fast and he's really big on nutrition. That's another reason why I kind of like Chile, because being a Marine and all, I still do my PT and all that. I train pretty much every day. I do something because I just feel like, oh man, you're a POS if you don't do some kind of physical activity. And I see him doing that and he tries to eat right. So I can understand fasting, right? Because that's a way you can detox, clean out your body, right, Jay?
Hey, only time I fast is when my wife cooks.
Yeah.
Try not to eat that crap.
Yeah. So I'm just going through these.
Making sure she's not standing behind me.
Right. Okay. So Richard, I appreciate your comment, buddy. But look, we're here to talk about what happened at the trial. Of course, we're just like right now we're just talking about nonsense. But what we're here to talk about is, oh, this guy thinks I don't have a Texas bar number. Okay, well, all you got to do is go on the Texas State Bar website and type in my name. It's right there, buddy. Let me see here. Do any of you guys know when the Constitutional Board game is coming out? I've been promising it to my daughter for 2 Christmases now. You know about that, Jay?
I heard about it a while back, and I haven't seen anything about it. So
yeah, so Mikey B is okay.
He's too busy.
Gotcha.
He's too busy yelling at people.
So Mikey B is saying, doesn't the First Amendment? Okay, I guess you're talking about Ramadan. Yeah. But anyways, what I want you all to understand something about the education system. All right. The only thing I see is teachers asking for more money and scores going down. So what do? They just lower the standards so they can say that the kids are passing. But aren't we just doing a disservice to all these people? Say, oh, we'll just lower the scores, you poor thing. You know, you're just an oppressed victim. I mean, how is that really going to help our country? When I grew up, you know, people would be like, what, does your butt hurt? Get out there and make it happen. You know, I was going door to door, asking people if I could polish their shoes, asking people if I could wash their cars. Industrious. I don't see kids doing that. I don't, in fact, I don't see a lot of dads around anymore. I mean, where are these young boys getting their leadership? You know, Jay, what do you think about that? Is that one of the problems we're having?
Yeah, but I'm still trying to figure out when this Constitutional Board game comes out. I'm trying to find it.
All right. Well, I'm gonna try to visit.
I got like 8 computers going. I really want that.
I want it too. Sorry, but I'm going to try to visit Chille this weekend. Hopefully I can get in there and try to get his side and try to find out more information about people that care about him and stuff. Hey, Jay, I can't believe this, man. These people are still hitting me up. When's the last time you practiced law in Texas? It's like, dude. Oh, by the way,
what does that matter to the situation at hand right now?
It's crazy. It's so hard to. It's just crazy. I don't get it. So everybody knows. So there's different types of lawyers. There's trial attorneys who may do 1 or 2 trials a year and there's litigators. That's pretty much what I do now is complex litigation. If I can't settle, the last thing I want to do is get my case in front of any black robe taskmaster. I want to do such a good job on discovery and all that other stuff to where the other side's just terrified. Where they don't.
All I do is doc review and case law research. So I'd hate to get up there in front of him, but even I could have beat what his lawyer did for him. So I think my daughter could have beat that. Just, I mean, one objection at least, you know.
Yep.
I don't know. That's what I was upset about is the ineffective assistance of counsel that he had. But like I said, I don't know what he told that lawyer going in there or what, because there was some argument about whether he was standby and the judge just pretty much nixed that. She said, either you're going to represent yourself or he's going to represent you. There's not going to be any standby deal.
Yeah. So. Yeah. She wasn't having the whole friend to court thing. She clearly already knew who Chille was and was ready for him. And I just know from having worked, you know, for the government and stuff that's obviously what was going on. And the bailiff already had a hard on for him. You know, you could see that.
He did have a preliminary hearing.
Ah, there you go. So
he did have a preliminary hearing where he said he didn't need a lawyer, that he had standby counsel. And he was arguing with that judge as well about, no, I have a lawyer. And, you know, she had to go through her questions and answer about, are you qualified to do that or whatever. I believe it was on the 18th.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he just, he tried to plead his case.
Yeah.
Instead of answering the questions and just it was the arraignment, I think it was. And she was setting a case for preliminary and he just pretty much ruined that.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the thing, guys. Abraham Lincoln said that the guy who represents himself has a fool for a client.
Yeah. It was Judge Cynthia Leung.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was just an arraignment. I mean, he argued with her for 30 minutes when all she wanted was a guilty or not guilty, and do you need a lawyer? So
Yeah.
I think that's where that standby debacle came from. So I don't know.
Well, hey, look, I appreciate King Braveheart. Hey, thanks. Besides all the insults and personal attacks, Braveheart saying, I like how Mike's explaining stuff. Well, it's not just Mike. What I'm trying to do is get some engagement from people to get them thinking, because I think that there's a lot of cops who are getting screwed too, guys. I mean, imagine being a guy like me who believes in the Constitution and being told by some politician that I've got to go and enforce some loose cigarette law and use force, and I'm in New York. So as a result of that, Eric Gardner gets choked out, and the police get accused of being racist. BLM causes billions of dollars in property damage, right? I mean, how does that help this country? In reality, these politicians are throwing you cops under the bus and blaming you for stuff and causing riots. But you guys are so worried about losing your pensions and all that. I can understand that. But it's no consolation to the family members of people like Chille who are getting thrown in jail because you're losing your minds. What do you think about that, Jay? I mean, give me your 2 cents.
I think you're absolutely right. I think, the liberal lobbyists and everything like that. And I think something, with all these auditors doing that are absolutely trying to create 1983 civil rights cases, there's going to be legislation come out about it. We're going to hear stuff about, hey, there's going to be this 21-foot rule. There's going to be this where they can get them for obstruction, without just the ease of that, like that. Because these police, they have unions and lobbyists and stuff like that. They're going to lobby Congress to enact legislation that's going to create these laws where you can't do it to further step on your constitutional rights. People think that these constitutional rights can't be stopped. But I mean, look at the Second Amendment. All they have to do is make it some sort of a regulation or a regulatory scheme, and there goes the Bill of Rights.
Right. And if you control the education system, you can convince all of these fatherless children that, oh my God, guns are so scary and dangerous, and being able to defend it. But at the end of the day, we know that all dictators have to disarm you first. Look what happened in Canada, right? They took away the right to be able to purchase firearms, or at least handguns. Right. And now the government's coming down hard, man, forcing them to do these 15-minute cities, all this crazy nonsense that like you and I would be up in arms about. Social credit system where they can shut your bank account down if you disagree with the government, or if you say something bad about big pharma. By the way, over 2,000 scientific journals were just mysteriously removed from the NIH website. Why do you think that is, guys? It's because it was all bullshit. They were saying that ivermectin is dangerous, which is bullshit. Ivermectin is one of the greatest drugs ever created. And if you've ever lost a family member like my family has from the booster shots, you've got a lot to say about that. So just remember that these people are educated by that same education system. Anyways, go ahead, man. I didn't mean to cut you off, buddy.
You're fine. But like I say, I think that the more these auditors win, the more they're going to create legislation. The police are going to lobby Congress, and he who has the most money to lobby Congress and pay for the next campaign is going to get that law enacted, and more auditors, and not necessarily auditors, just normal free people are going to go to jail for not producing your papers when the soldiers come to get it. And it's ridiculous, just like that. I mean, I didn't hear him ask him for ID or anything. Right. Normally, that's the first thing they do is give me your ID, and that's where it usually stems off from. Yeah. I don't have to. Next thing you know, you're in handcuffs. But I think he knew who he was.
Of course, of course he did. So, anyways, what I'm trying to make all you understand is we have what's going on in Canada, what's going on in communist China. We have our own tech industry help communist China and Canada build their social surveillance network, social credits. If you disagree with the government, if you disagree with what some asshole politician forced your kids to do, or secret transitioning of your children in public schools, we know now that school teachers have been forced to lie to parents about transitioning kids. Go into a public school, you see rainbow flags all over the schools. And you're like going, I didn't really come here for that. And then all of a sudden your son is wearing a dress home, and you're wondering, oh, well, how did that happen? Well, that's how, guys. So, you have all these secret little interrelationships. We know that doctors get a shitload of money to do all the hormone therapy. And we know that they donate money to the same politicians that the teachers unions donate their money to. So I just want you to understand the inner workings of what's really going on with your lives here. And this is a really good way to demonstrate it. And what I'm going to do now is just show you a screen. I'm going to share with you on the screen. I'm going to try to open this up. This is from the Rutherford Institute. And this is what myself and several other of my constitutional lawyer friends think is the reason why people like you are having a hard time. So the U.S. Supreme Court failed to recognize a cert in the Crocker v. Beatty case, Beatty. They let stand a lower court ruling which granted qualified immunities to a police officer who confiscated a bystander's cell phone, and they arrested him for resisting an officer. Sound familiar? Mm-hmm. So when a judge sees that the Supreme Court's going to ignore someone's First Amendment right to film, et cetera, or just simply not hear it, and that could be for many reasons, by the way. I'm not suggesting that the Supreme Court is like trying to ignore people's rights or anything like that. But typically the Supreme Court won't act until there's a jurisdictional split. Like there's two jurisdictions that have conflicting views. But right now it doesn't seem to be the case. So they just denied cert. And so as a result of that, this guy, ends up getting thrown in the back of a hot car with no air conditioning, gets his phone confiscated, and he loses the case. So it's almost like the Supreme Court sending a message to all the Superior Court judges, screw these auditors, right? So I just want people to look beyond what they were brainwashed to think by CNN or their communist public school teachers and look at reality. The reality is this is a corporate system. One company, BlackRock, I think controls 80 to 90% of all of our corporations. Our corporations donate money to politicians. You'll notice that Pfizer likes to donate money to like the Grammys. They really want to go after the young ones, get them to inject themselves with that stuff as much as possible, right? By the way, isn't it interesting that the Amish rarely get cancer and they don't take any of these injections? I don't know, something to think about. Anyways, let's see here. So a lot of people are talking about trifolds. Let me see here. I have family in the cattle business. They use liquid topical ivermectin on their livestock. None of them got, well, of course not. Look, ivermectin is amazing stuff. I'm not allowed to say this without going to prison. So I'll say many doctors say that ivermectin coupled with zinc, vitamin D3, potassium, and oxychloroquine will knock out COVID in less than 2 to 3 days. Now, me personally, I have personal knowledge that it does. And I have personal knowledge that it does with my wife and my 2 kids. So all you people want to inject yourself with mRNA and, with all the problems we know now are true about it. And now we know we were lied to about ivermectin being a veterinarian drug and all this stuff. Do you really trust anything that these politicians have to say? And I know this is a little bit off the topic, but it's kind of not, because we have one side in these chats that are, oh, you got to be pro-cop, pro-government. Chille's evil. He's the devil incarnate. You have to believe anything the state says. What I'm suggesting is you guys get yourself off of government-run and state-run propaganda. Stop watching CNN and Fox News. I think they're all owned by the same corporation, right? Doesn't the guy who owns New York Times also own Fox News? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Put it in the comments if I'm wrong. Most people believe they're somewhat intelligent, that it's controlled opposition. So just think about that. All right. So go ahead, man.
I like how these people are hating on Chille with saying all this and all that, and they have absolutely nothing to say about the case. Nothing.
Put FC in the sidebar if you want a free Chille.
No nothing intelligent or articulate to say about the case. And
Right. That was the issue I had too, brother, is all these people want to come on and trash talk Chille.
Yeah.
And here I am, a civil libertarian, been practicing law for almost 2 decades. And I'm trying to say, hey, this is why, this is what's going on. Okay. So we've got that far. Let's talk a little bit about civility, because this is something you and I talked about earlier, Jay, is how to deal with cops. There's this guy, this East Coast auditor guy. He's got like this sort of like like a New York accent, or
I think I know who you're talking about. Not the Erie County guy, but
not sure, but him and him and Chille don't get along too good for whatever reason.
There's a lot of auditors that Chille doesn't get along with.
Okay. But his approach is a little more civil, like, so let me just kind of lay this out for people, because I all you auditors and you guys on the other side too. Look, I'm all about the Constitution. I want all of us to be protected. I don't want anybody to go away because you hate them. I want them to go away if they really did something that went against where your family might be unsafe, or somehow or another other people could be harmed. Clearly, we don't want those, like illegal aliens that come across that are unvetted. We have no idea who they are. Thousands of communist Chinese coming across. We have no idea. Those types of people, those are the kind of people that need to be locked up. Not the people right? Not people who grew up here, who are trying to protect, preserve, and defend the Constitution as they know it. So people like that are the kind of people I'd like to educate a little bit. And one of the things that I want to help you understand is civility. Okay. So me being a blue collar guy, having gotten kicked out of school for fighting and stuff, and being a Marine and being raised by a jarhead, I've always kind of had some rough edges. I'm kind of guy that would rather throw down than actually try to reason with people, right? Because that's just the way young boys in my generation were raised. So I had to learn about civility, and I did that by being mentored by really good lawyers, and also by reading a book called Understanding Civility. It's written by this Italian guy. Put it in the comments to remind me, and I will get you guys a link to the book. It's a real easy read too. I mean, you don't have to be super bright. It's like a small, but the idea is Jay and I were talking about this, and look, there's no reason to not be civil to these cops. And it's not because they have a hard job or any of that kind of stuff. It's because being civil and being kind is, and I don't know what your religious background, but my mom and my dad would always say, what would Jesus do? And I think that's a really great example, like be kind and be considerate, be courteous, and understand that this other person you're talking to may have had a crappy day.
You're less likely to get the shit kicked out of you with a little bit of, because I'm from Texas and they will kick the shit out of you.
Yeah. And your wife may have left you, but at the same time, Jay, that's the problem that I have with the law enforcement side, especially in Texas, because they're all about, you're right, man. They're pretty gung ho. They'll kick the shit out of you. But at the same time, they'll be all about their Second Amendment and yeehaw, God, guns, and guts, Ronald Reagan, whatever. But guess what, man?
Double standard.
That's a double standard. Our founding fathers intended for those guys to deal with the uncivil one. You can't assume that everyone out there is perfectly sane or like you. Everybody's got their own story. And, there are some really awesome, what I call peace officers out there who really do.
There really are some good ones. There really are some decent ones. I just usually happen to get the bad ones. So.
Yeah. I'll share a personal story with you. Like about a week before I was going in the Marine Corps, I blew through a stop sign because I was working down in Aliso Viejo, and I had to drive all the way to Orange off where I went to independent study on East Chapman in Orange. And so I'm jamming, going like 80 because I don't want to be late for school. I had to get this diploma so I can get in the Marines. I blow through the stop sign. I get pulled over by an Orange County sheriff, man. And I was crying. I was like, man, if I got my work truck, all my paint buckets in the back, and I'm 16 years old, dude. I'm a kid, and I got paint all over me. And he's like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be in school. Aren't you truant or whatever? I'm like, no, sir. I got kicked out of school for fighting, and my dad gave me a choice of going to school, of working full time, and then join the Marines. He's like, oh, And I was crying. I was like, sir, you cannot do this. I got a commanding general's waiver just to get in the Marine Corps because of my background from having problems, you know? And he's like, son, I was a Marine too. Because you're joining the Marine Corps and you have a full-time job and you're responsible, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. So, you know, I got to tell you, I don't have the same experience with cops that Chille does. Of course, I did have a bad experience with a West Covina cop, a total piece of shit, but I ended up suing him, getting 30 grand after he falsely charged me with a 148 over a parking ticket. So I can look at it from both points of view. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I'm not a cop sucker.
That's what a lot of people can't understand is, hey, you know, they think, oh, you're a lawyer, you're a jackass, you know, but if you come from both backgrounds where you know absolutely both sides of it. So he says Chille has a heart.
Look,
and he helps a lot of people.
He sure does. He sure does. He helps out a lot of auditors, guys, with money. And a lot of people say that they got screwed by him and stuff. And I appreciate y'all saying that. But that hasn't been my personal experience with the guy. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know what your version of getting screwed means either. But I'm not trying to in any way diminish that. But grounds on appeal. Probably the only one he's got is the one that Jay mentioned earlier, based on what I saw. And I think that I love this one. Marines kick butt. I don't know who James Ford's been. Well, who the heck is that? That's freaking Gunny. Is that Gunnery Sergeant Hartman?
It looks like Arlie Ermy.
That's Gunnery Sergeant Hartman. I'm loving this.
He was in Apocalypse Now too.
That's right. Yeah, man. And you know, another great movie with Gunny Hartman, Arlie Ermy. I actually got to meet Arlie Ermy, guys, and I got a signed autograph from my dad where he's holding a jelly donut with Private Pile. And I gave that to my dad, and that was my dad's prized possession, man, that signed autograph. Arlie Ermy was the man. But hey, there's another really cool movie for y'all to watch. I think it's called The Siege at Firebase Gloria. And Arlie Ermy plays a force reconnaissance first sergeant or a master sergeant. And he's with another guy, like another Marine corporal or something. They're like on a 2-man LRP. And they go into this Army fire base called Firebase Gloria. And it's all these freaking, you know, bus drivers, soldiers, like drinking beer, smoking weed, bandanas, and they're getting ready to be overtaken by the NVA. And the NVA have never gotten that far south, right? Oh, we don't have to worry about blah, blah, blah. So Gunny Hartman goes in there and just I think they take out one of the officers, and they take over. These 2 Marines take over this Army base, and they fight off like thousands of NVA. It's just the coolest movie, man. It's like the total Marine movie. Marines save Army once again. It's so awesome, man. Okay, so I get a lot of these comments too, and I, you know, Jay, I hate this, but Chille hates the military. I get it, man. Chille hates the military, and Jay and I hate a lot of the stuff that Chille does. Go ahead, Jay, talk about some of the stuff that you hate about what Chille does.
I mean, that's what we're talking about. Is your right to hate what you want to. And I mean, his opinions don't necessarily coincide with mine, but what I'm talking about is how he got screwed in court. I don't have to agree with him on whether he likes the military or not. Yeah. I don't hate the guy because of it. I mean, you're wholeheartedly welcome to join the Peace Corps if you want to. I joined the Marine Corps. I mean, go. But what I'm talking about is how he got railroaded in court. And yeah, I mean, largely a lot of that was due to his mouth. But I think, I really think if he'd have kept his mouth shut, he would have been all right. He would have got the 90 days suspended, walked out, and then he could have fought it on his YouTube channel or whatever. And okay, but now he's sitting in a jail cell because he wanted to show his nuts, for lack of a better word. And that's what I'm talking about, is how I agree with a lot of what he does. I just don't like the way he does it. I mean, he could have taken that 90 days suspended sentence and took his little anger management class or whatnot and been just fine. He could have came right back out, got on his channel and explained himself how he was wrong and, you know, showed the evidence and then, you know, done his appeal and or whatnot, however he wanted to do it. But he had to get a little boisterous there, and it landed his butt in jail. So I really think that's the only reason he's in jail.
Yeah, Jay, and look, this is the thing. this is the problem that I have, is that the Constitution, the Bill of Rights are supposed to be blind and neutral, and courts and other people need to recognize you're going to run across people who aren't like you. And so that's the issue that I have. Cops will say, well, if he was nice to me, I wouldn't give him the ticket.
Right. No, he could say whatever he wanted to outside of that courtroom. He could have called that cop and his mom everything that he wanted to. But what I'm saying is inside the court, I think, there you don't have people think you have freedom of speech in there. It's called decorum. And if that judge doesn't like what you're saying, they deem it respectful, that's why they have direct and criminal contempt of court.
Well, it's not a public forum.
That's what I'm saying. It's not.
Yeah.
You can't carry a gun in there. You can't, that's not the public. So, and a lot of people don't understand that,
Well, Chille's kind of a purist in that regard. And I think he's getting a lesson in reality when it comes to the way the court and other people perceive you. And that's why I want all of you guys to see, look, I think that Chille has done a lot of amazing stuff. And I think that one of the areas that he could potentially work on would be the civility portion. And I think that he already knows that. I mean, the guy is clearly very intelligent. He's very bright. And now we've got a comment here saying Chille doesn't hate veterans. He just says they were duped. Well, I got to be honest with you. We were duped. I mean, my father was lied to. I mean, the Vietnam War was started over the Gulf of Tonkin, which never happened. That's been now debunked. We still don't have the information about Kennedy. I guess it looks that bad to the CIA that they still refuse to release that. What 70 or 80 years later? How long has it been now, Jay? I mean, do you know how long it's been since Kennedy passed away?
11/22/63. So that long. I was in the Marines. I don't do math.
I love that. But what I'm getting at is we don't, so us military guys, Iraq, where's the weapons of mass destruction? But you got what you got. Yeah. Well, you guys got to understand about, especially Marines, we don't really care. Like the French Foreign Legion, everybody, which I consider Marines to be America's version of the FFL, closest thing we got. They serve the Legion. Marines serve each other first. I hate to say it, but we're a true brotherhood. We love our country, but I think we love each other even more. And that's why when we get out, when I see somebody with their Eagle Globe and anchor pin on their lapel or whatever, instantly I'm buying them something. We're talking, we're exchanging business cards. If one of my fellow Marine brothers has a problem, or Navy SEAL corpsman or corpsman, any of these guys has a problem, they got a couch to sleep on and vice versa. And that's what makes us different. So I understand what Chille's saying. And maybe he does think, Marines are idiots. I met quite a few infantrymen who weren't that bright, but I also know that if there was an earthquake or if there was a problem and my family was in danger, they would be the first person there to help me dig them out of the rubble. So that's kind of like our mentality. Is that kind of how you feel too, Jay?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, none of my military friends want to come over anymore because they're afraid my wife's going to cook. But I mean, they always got a couch to sleep on.
Yes. Don't let her see that part.
Got to make sure she's not standing behind me. Be a frying pan come flying here in a minute.
All right, I guess we can do open mic because it's Friday, guys, and I don't have any video queued up. It's just that look, I've been getting so many calls and emails that I figure I'm just going to do this damn video. Last night, I think I went for almost 2 hours. I'm burned out, guys. My eyes are all bloodshot because you got to understand, I get up at like 03 and I'm working on briefs. Then I go to the gym and then I get back and I'm working on briefs. And then I was like, I'm already ready for a nap. And then I got to do this because my buddy's in jail, and I got to put the word out there. But we'll do a little bit of open mic. You see the comment there. What do you have to say about that comment from Carl Hayes there, Jay?
Oh, absolutely. Most of his was. I mean, I know that movie by heart. And I mean, because he was a Marine Corps drill instructor. Don't say drill sergeant.
That's right.
And a lot of it was improvised. Like, I think a lot of the stuff with Private Snowball was improvised. They just let him go. Stanley Kubrick couldn't keep him under control, so he just let him go. Yeah. So I watched the making of it, and Kubrick kind of just said, well, this one, you do whatever you want to. I'll be right back. I'm going to the bathroom.
Yep. So, guys, when before I went in, I watched that I watched that movie like a million times. And so I thought boot camp was a piece of cake because I thought that these guys were going to beat the crap out of me. But they were really cool. Let me see here. Open mic. Let me see here. Open mind dared you to have Mr. Bones on. Don't know what that is, but I'm learning. Okay, so TYVM Mike. All right. Hey, by the way, everybody put an FC for me in the comments and give me some OTVOs to keep the spirit of your brother alive, because I haven't seen a whole lot of OTVOs. Overturn Terry versus Ohio. Now, there was another issue that came up about, I'm trying to remember here. It was Pennsylvania v. Mimms. One of the commenters mentioned Pennsylvania v. Mimms the other day. There you go. FC OTVO. Yeah. FC. Do it. I love it. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate it that you guys are like loyal friends and stuff. It's hard to make friends nowadays. Nowadays, you pretty much have to be online. You never know when the government's going to destroy your life again and lock you into your house. So you got to put FC in the chat. Yeah. Okay. So Pennsylvania v. Mimms. So just really quick, my understanding of that case, and remember, law is an art, and I'm sure that one of you people who hate Chille has a different interpretation. But my understanding of Pennsylvania v. Mimms is that has to do with traffic stops and officer safety. And so one of the commenters was mentioning that, because of officer safety, that the officer had the right to do what he did to Chille and arrest him, even though Chille was really kind of complying, even though he didn't have to, in my opinion. He was far enough away. And also, interference is a physical act. It's not a verbal act. It's not you have to physically obstruct. There was nothing there. So that's another problem that should have been on the record or in briefs, that, request to take judicial notice that it's a physical act. But irrespective of all that, the Mimms case, I don't really think has any bearing on this case, because this was not a traffic stop. Chille was not an occupant of a vehicle. And Chille was also showing that he didn't have anything on him. And I've seen him do this in other videos, so I know he has a habit and practice of showing the officer, hey, look, I don't have any weapons. So I know he does that. And so I have confidence and faith that he was doing that this time. And based upon the body cam footage and his footage, it appears as though he was doing that. And he was also backing up, following the officer's commands. So I don't see how Pennsylvania v. Mimms would have any bearing on the court's ruling. But I do believe that traffic courts and lower courts often don't really know the law, because you have judges that are, were lawyers before, and they worked on one type of case, and now they're having to do the full calendar of every type of case. And like I explained before, the law is like this giant Sears tower. Personal injury law, like the law I practice, car accidents and stuff like that, is in a little tiny file box, and that's down in the basement. And then imagine every other kind of law: wills, trusts, real estate law, a little file box filling up rooms to the ceiling, going all the way up to the top. And so now you thrust a judge into that, and they're basically an administrator. Some people call them black robe taskmasters, but they're basically an administrator. They're supposed to be like a referee, and they want to clear their calendar. That's what they do. Their goal is to clear their calendar. And so you can't expect them to be super well-versed. And that's why it's super important to have an animated lawyer like me, right? Super animated. You got to have that, because judges, like anyone else, because they're people, they're human beings. And that's why I say understanding civility. Cops are people too. You don't want to piss them off, even though they shouldn't attack you and put the handcuffs on you, but you shouldn't antagonize them, because as a human being, that's going to hurt their ego, and they're going to do something to hurt you probably. But unfortunately, not everybody's mind or brain is set up that way, guys. So anyways, I'm throwing a lot of stuff out at you, but you got to understand that judge is never going to know as much as somebody like Jay, who focuses all of his energy on auditing, First Amendment. You can't expect that. And Jay, go ahead and tell me, what do you think about that comment?
I wanted to get your opinion. They said something, it's a good thing it was Nevada. If he'd have been in Texas, when he started doing all that reaching for that other phone,
yeah,
he would have got manhandled badly. But I think the only reason he didn't on that is because that cop was scared and he was by himself. I think if 6 other ones would have showed up, I think they would have dropped him and put the boots to him like they normally do. I was rewatching it on my other computer, and I mean, he did a bunch of this, and I was like, oh, you'd have done that in Texas. They probably would have shot you.
You know, it's funny because when I was watching that, I was literally sort of reaching for my waistband. You know what I mean? Like because I carry. So I just like, wow, like you know what I mean? Like it's like instinctive. You see someone going through their waistband, you instantly want to react. And you're right. So in that regard, here's my personal thought is I think the cop knew he wasn't a threat. And that's why he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I think he probably knew that Chille's out filming all the time. Look, there's a shitload of video all over YouTube of Chille walking up to Vegas cops and talking to them, going to the gas station down the street. Like, they know who he is, dude. Trust me. So they knew he wasn't really a threat. I mean, Chille, you know, I wouldn't want to tangle with the guy, but he is not somebody who will ever try to throw down on you. That's not his nature.
He's a pretty big guy too.
Oh yeah, dude, I wouldn't want to tangle with the guy. And I've been in judo since I was a little kid.
Oh.
You know, I can just tell by, you know, this guy's got something going on. So, you know, anyway, so the bottom line is you can't expect that judge to know as much. Can't expect that judge to know as much as somebody who's got more of that training like me. Like I know way more, I guarantee you, even though I'm not a Nevada lawyer, than that judge about infractions and misdemeanors when it comes to traffic stops. But that's just because I got more training and all that. But so I'm not going to sit here and attack the judge either, but I do believe that judge was under an enormous amount of pressure to rule the way that she did. Not just because of having to be in good stead with the police, but because of decorum, because of court decorum. What you basically pointed out is that it's her courtroom. And if we're talking like that, it's going to diminish not her, but that black robe's authority.
Right.
However, where I diverge from the way I think it was handled improperly is that it could have been handled through a contempt order.
Yep.
And it wasn't, but it looked like a contempt based upon the charges, the way they were laid down. And beyond that, I'll be honest with you, I think she would have had a better chance at winning on appeal for a contempt charge than she's going to have at winning on the facts of this case.
Yeah.
Right, Jay? Because Jay, it's about the facts of the case. I mean, Chille's backing up, but he's just cussing at the guy and copper this, that, you know, that's just this person, almost like someone with Asperger's, right? Like, or Tourette's. It's just part of the deal. You got to accept it. Not everybody's going to be like you and me, you know? So he's just, I
would have had a hard time not saying anything to that bailiff too, the way he snatched that phone out of there. But I mean, I know I've been in enough courtrooms to where I know just control or whatever, or I would have actually brought that up to the judge, you know, and that calling him a pig, that puts you below the line right there automatically, because they don't forget that. They don't like being disrespected. You know, and nobody does really, but I think that bailiff disrespected Chille just as much as he disrespected him. But of course, you're not allowed to do that in a courtroom. So wasn't mad at you. Like, you know, in principle, I understand what wasn't mad at you is talking about. Chille didn't disrupt anything, and that's kind of true. Chille really did. I mean, Chille was in the heat of the moment. I mean, if you're going to defend him, in the heat of the moment, some guy comes out of your periffs and snatches your phone out of your hand. And of course, that in Chille's case, that's his primary source of income. That's how he supports himself. You know, he does educational videos, he does constitutional law courses and all this other stuff. And so in his mind, there's a lot more going on in his thought process. So he says, pig, he bursts it out. And of course, the court didn't like that, but he did apologize to the court. And although he didn't apologize to the bailiff, the court didn't press the matter, and no contempt charges were issued. Surprisingly.
Right? Surprisingly, right?
Very surprisingly. I thought she was going to throw the book at him. I'm not sure what the max is in there, but I know everywhere else, 180 days automatic if they want to. That's, I think, we're up to a year.
I think you're right. Well, you know, guys, you know, Texas is just like out of control. It's probably worse than Ironton. Right.
Yeah.
But so
you forget to take your hat off in Texas, you're going to jail.
Which you know what, for me personally, I'm cool with that, because I really do believe that an armed and civil society is a polite society, but everybody has to be on board. And when you have an outlier and someone who's not, well, that's where the Constitution comes in. You know, for me personally, I think it's great to hang out with people that you get on with and not be forced to like commingle with people and all multiculturalism garbage and all that. I mean, if their values aren't on point with yours, why are you hanging out with them, man? You know?
Michael, I may lose you. We got a storm coming in. It's probably going to knock out my internet.
Roger that. Well,
we're waiting on 14 inches of snow. So,
oh, damn. Well, if I lose you, you know, it was really great. This is the first time I've ever met Jay, y'all. So, and I always start talking like I'm from Texas. You know what I mean? When I meet a Texan. But I'm glad he came on. I'd love to have you come on some more, man.
Absolutely. You got my email. I think I'm fixing to lose you. My lights are flickering.
All right. So, all right, guys. Well, if I lose you, I lose you. But in the meantime, let's throw some FCs. Let's do some OTVOs. Put them in the comments, as many as you can. And ask and put any questions that you have that you want me to relay or comments that you want me to relay to Chille. And I'll make a good faith effort to go and see him this weekend. If I can, they'll let me, and try to keep you posted on that. But any questions, you know, and I'm sure he'll be encouraged because, you know, this is a really tough time, man. If any of y'all have ever been to jail, it's even a holding cell. It's terrible. And you're not human. You're treated like just lower than low. And a lot of people that are in there shouldn't be there, which is really sad. And we just have some really ridiculous laws. And if it's a political based persecution, they can just put you in solitary forever and use political reasons to keep you there and make it look like people who support you are crazy people or they're like terrorists, right? I'm sure you
just tell Chille to give you $1 retainer. You can go see him.
Well, the thing is, since I'm not a Nevada lawyer, I don't know if it matters. You know what I'm saying? Like, but we'll see. But yeah, I mean, maybe I can get a hold of his family or something and try to get in there.
You may have to get on a visitation list of some sort.
Yeah, I'll work on it.
Yeah,
but
I'm flickering real bad here, so
it's all right. Just everybody, everybody, free Chille. We're probably going to cut this thing a little short today, guys. I'm really tired from the last few days. Put it in the comments if you want me to do anything this weekend, audience, because if not, I'm just going to try to relax. But if you do, I'll do it just because I know that I think pretty much everybody here is just so used to doing this. It's part of their habit. So I'm trying to keep it going until we can get them out of jail, you know, because I don't want people to forget about them, honestly. And I really do believe.
I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
Well, what comes around goes around, you know.
Right. So, all right, Michael, I'm going to get out of here before I lose this.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm flickering here.
All right.
My internet's fixing to go.
All right. So I'm just posting everybody's stuff here so they can all see their comments. FC, let's do it.
I'll shoot you an email when I come back up. Mike.
All right, brother. All right, man.
Semper Fi.
Yeah, hoorah. All right. So here we say, Chille needs to know the lawyer he arranged for Wanda Mice saved Wanda 2 days ago. Oh, that's awesome. That's great. Well, I will definitely let her know. You know, Greg, if you want, you can also just reach out through like one of my websites there and give me your contact info and I can try to do what I can. I don't know if you guys can see my eyes, but they're just completely bloodshot because I have all these big lights all over the place. And I just think that all these lights are just killing me. Look at that. But I'm doing it for you because you guys matter. So let me see here. Please keep it going. Okay, I will, Ruben. That's what I needed to hear, you know, because I think it's really cool that regardless of who it is that you care about, that there's people out there that actually care about people. Because from what I've seen in the last couple of years, it just looks pretty bad. It looks like it's every man for himself. So it's nice to see that. Yeah, let's OTVO. Okay, I got you, bro. I got you. Yeah, James, it's not just that. I think it's these lights. I mean, I have so Chille kind of like helped me set up my studio. So I've got this big overhead light over here. Let me see if I can kind of show you. See that one? Then I got another one over here. And I got all these lights here. Look at this, man. I mean, this is pretty cool. So I've got some serious. This is like being in a tanning salon, and of course I'm wearing my. Got to be squared away, right? So, but yeah, it's really cool hanging out with you guys. And what I like about it is that I can just be myself, and I don't have to. I'm not trying to sell you like, hey, if you've been in a car accident, call Ehline Law. Yeah, that's right. OTVO. So give me some OTVOs. Give me some far cheese FCs. Let me see here. Give me some FCFCs. Give them to me. FC. Give me some OTVOs. I never thought I would have the honor to say OTVO, overturn Terry versus Ohio. Thanks, Mama Lion. Hey, look, if anybody is already on a visitors list or can give me some additional information about, how to get in there, I'll go and see him. I'll bring him some bar study material so we can get him studying for the bar exam. I think the guy would make a great lawyer. Between you, me, and the fence post and the whole world on the internet, I think that everybody needs to learn civility, be more civil, because we're all Americans. And if tomorrow we were attacked by a foreign invader, which we've been under attack since the last election, 16 million foreign invaders, but setting that aside, like if Mars attacked us tomorrow, all of us would unite to repel that invasion. And all that other stuff would be set aside. Just like, after the towers fell, America united behind that one cause. There was no more African Americans. There were no more Asian Americans. All that stuff went out the window and we became united. And that is a real, that is a threat to the Leviathan. And so I'm just going to tell you. So remember, this is a battle between a spiritual battle. This is the great Leviathan against natural law. The Leviathan is the concept of an overpowering, all-knowing beast that controls every aspect of your life like a Borg, that sucks you in. And if you disagree with the Leviathan, you can be canceled, right? That's what the Leviathan is. And the natural law believes that our rights come from an all-powerful creator and they can never be taken from us. And these come from natural law. And that is the John Locke philosophy. And that's where our Bill of Rights comes from. That's where I think at least one verse of our Declaration of Independence comes from as well. So John Locke and Scottish natural law theorists and other people like that were the progenitors of our Constitution and Bill of Rights. And it's the underpinnings of the first, second, third, fourth, even the ones the Marxist-Leninists argue that they have a right to, are based upon an all-powerful being that created you and gave you upon your birth certain unalienable rights that can never be taken away. And that's why I think Chille gets so upset when someone puts their hands on him, especially the government, because to him, that's his public servant and he has natural rights. They shouldn't be touching him because all he's doing is filming and he's not a threat. He's clearly not a threat and they all know it. It's ridiculous. So anyways, Wanda says lower courts operate under deceit. Let me see here. Son, you Liberty says, I disagree. Soy munching haters will scurry off and hide. Okay, well, that's true. Okay, listen, guys, we know that less than 3% of our founding fathers, of the people in this country before, actually engaged and actually supported the revolution by giving it aid, comfort, and helping us fight off King George. We know that. So very small portion. And they were the alpha males. And you see that we're the ones that are most under attack by the administrative state today. They're pushing so hard for the toxic male narrative and all this. But I guarantee you, if I was out in public and we came under fire and I had a bunch of feminists with me who hate me because I'm a toxic male, they would all be running to me and I would be the one giving them comfort and putting rounds down range to give them cover, because that's the kind of guy I am. That's what an alpha male does. And it doesn't matter what they think of it because you just have to do it. So hopefully you guys won't have already been forced to inject yourself with female hormones because your public school teachers convinced you were a different sex, and you'll still have some cojones by the time it comes to raise your arm, your hands in defense of your fellow man, which you should always be ready, willing, and able to do. And you're right, we don't stop, and we never will stop, Jody. And you're right about that. And I appreciate it that you guys all love Chille. I think that's really cool. And yeah, Semper Fi BZ Watchdog. And look, I'm not bootlicking anybody. You know, I met the guy. I like him. He's a cool guy. I know he's got a lot of things in his past that might bother you, but I'm going to just tell all you guys right now, look in the mirror and tell me you don't have things that you've done that you're ashamed of, and you've lied about. Just do that. Look at me right now and say you've never done that. You can go ahead and cast that first stone, brother. People who live in glass houses shouldn't really be throwing rocks. That's another reason why I really think we need to learn civility, especially auditors, because I think that, and this is, I didn't get to go this far, but earlier, but when you get to, and then I'll go, man, I can't get off this thing now because I'm reading these comments and you're motivating the crap out of me. Okay, here's the thing. When you go to court, right, and you're suing for a civil rights violation, maybe you win your criminal case, and then the jury in the civil rights case is looking, right, and they're looking at your video, and the guy's going, "Fuck you, copper," right? Like, F you, don't put your fucking beep, 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 right? Okay, here's how it works. I'm just telling you, just from my own personal experience. And I'm not like the best trial lawyer, but I know how jurors are. First of all, jurors don't want to be there. All right. They do not want to be there. Most of them are, the good jurors are going to argue jury nullification and get kicked off. The ones you really wanted, right? The smart ones, they're off, right? I'm not saying jurors are dumb, but I'm saying the ones that I would really want, that analytical thinking juror, they're so intelligent that jury nullification, they leave. So now we're left with people who don't want to be there, getting what, $10 a day, just barely enough to cover their parking, right? And now they're seeing this video, F you, this, copper that, beep, beep, beep. And even though you got the shit beat out of you, some of them may have a cop, brother or sister. They may just been raised like a really conservative, strict Catholic, or a Lutheran, or even like a Hasidic Jew, and they just think that is inappropriate behavior. And they don't want to reward that, even though you were in the right, because they're humans, and they'll put themselves in the cop's shoe and go, yeah, he pissed him off, you know, even though he was wrong. So you never want to give them that opportunity. You want the juror to see you as always having been reasonable. That's like when I'm in settlement negotiations with another lawyer, I always try to be super nice and always send a really nice letter that's a follow-up saying, just to confirm that you were very cordial and nice, and I really appreciated it that you were working with me, that I'm having a hard time getting these documents, and thank you so much. Because when you do that, not only does it make the other side know that you're a good person and that you're not being a jerk, but if you ever have to file a motion in the future, the court's going to see that, because all the court wants to do is clear their calendar, in my opinion. And so if someone was filing a motion for sanctions because they didn't get discovery or something, that judge is going to be pissed if that judge doesn't see in the table of exhibits that you made multiple attempts to resolve it first before filing that paperwork. And we're nice about it, not a jerk. And the same goes out on the street. The cop is basically a magistrate, okay? This is where the sovereign citizens have some valid points. Is the cop is a magistrate. He's basically the judge and jury, except that instead of jailing you, well, he does have the right to jail you, but not permanently, right? Is that he'll issue a notice to appear, which is a summons, and holds you to answer. And then you're held to answer. And then you go and you can enter your plea of guilty or not guilty. And by the way, just because you're found not guilty doesn't mean that you're innocent. That's another issue we can talk about at another time. Now, I know that the Citizens Broadcasting Cooperative is saying that the cop is not a magistrate. Well, there's actually, there is actually some cases that say that the officers are magistrates, which we can talk about at another time, but they do act as a magistrate for sure. I mean, they're doing all the same activities as a magistrate. Now, another thing that's interesting about municipal police is municipal police, their primary function is to protect government property and government officials. Municipal police have no duty to protect you at all, unless they assume such a duty which is a very rare situation. And there's another one when they've already assumed the duty. So if a cop comes to your aid and you come under fire and he leaves you there and runs, there's liability there. But if he never comes to your aid, there's no liability. That's why the Uvalde cops all got off. By the way, everybody, while we're talking about Uvalde, the woman who rescued her children while those cowardly Uvalde police officers, who should all burn in hell, allowed all those children to be trapped inside the school. So she removed her handcuffs, escaped, and went and rescued her children. Well, guess what? Child Protective Services took away her kids. So I just want you guys to think about that. I mean, that is absolutely unbelievable. The only reason why any of those kids were rescued is because an off-duty Border Patrol agent who was getting his hair cut down the street happened to have a kid at that school. And he basically went down there and told those local cops to FO and forced them to either assist him or let him go in there and rescue his kids. The first classroom when they went to was for his kids. So I just want you all to think about all you people who think that the police are the greatest and the government is the best. That is totally unsat. As a Marine, I would have gone room to room. I wouldn't have ran straight to my kid's room. Whatever mother was with me, that's the room we would have gone to first. I promise you that. And I expect our law enforcement officers to be the same way. And that woman should have never, ever had to be put in handcuffs. It's so absurd they put up perimeters around these schools and don't let the parents have any say in it. Anyways, put it in the comments if you disagree with me. Maybe I'm going off on a tangent. Anyways, Team DLZ standing strong. Hoorah. I love that. Let me see here. We don't stop. I love that. Yeah, I agree. It's disgusting. Now, the Uvalde cops were literally pepper spraying, I think, a couple of parents who were trying to rescue their kids because they're standing out there, right, while these kids are in there. So that's what LEO does. They put a perimeter around, Like, if it was me, man, I'm grabbing my freaking Glock and I'm going in. I'm going in hot. I'm going in right now. I don't care. Shoot me in the back, cops. If that's what you feel a need to do. Because there's no way a real man would ever abandon his children inside a schoolhouse with an active shooter when the cops are standing around out there pepper spraying parents. I just want you all to think about that, okay? And I'm not saying that all cops are bad, but that was ridiculous. And the fact that that's still not all over the front page news every single day in Texas is a mystery to me. Yeah, and I agree. I think you're right. I think that you would have gone in. Wasn't mad at you. Absolutely. I think Chille would have gone in. And look, I think a lot of these other people here who support, I don't know what they're really supporting other than hating Chille, but the ones who I think maybe have family members who were cops that don't like Chille or whatever, because those personnel complaints get cops in a lot of trouble. It's not good for your record. Remember, there's, cops have to get bonded and insured. Sometimes there's fidelity bonds. There's a lot of things going on there. Let me see here. Now, I get what you're saying. So Sin City, cops are doing exactly what they're trained to do, or it wouldn't be so. And okay, I'm going to share something with you. I worked for a really cool guy, one of my greatest mentors of all time, and at the prosecutor's office. And he used to be a filing deputy, and I was doing the 1538.5s, like opposing those motions, which is a motion to suppress. So my job was to suppress, was to oppose your motion to suppress, like weed the cops found in your car or whatever. And he told me that a prosecutor's job and a police officer's job is to do justice. And I just want you guys to know these old school guys, there's still a few old school guys out there like him, but you're right. The modern ones, because the modern ones don't believe in natural law. They support the modern statist Leviathan approach, where if you don't go along with what the crowd says, campus culture, you get canceled. But that's not what our founding fathers envisioned. They envisioned that the individual, that the sovereign individual, his rights mattered more than the rights of the group. And that they had to honor his rights of property and happiness and not try and come and steal it from him. And we see that with the census, we're bringing people up here to redistrict everything to go along with the Leviathanic approach. These people that are coming up here are coming from third world countries where they're basically serfs. What do they call them? Peasants. And many of them are communists. They're being brought up here by non-governmental organizations, which our tax dollars pay for. And they're being told how to come up here, given phones, given money, and being told how to circumvent our immigration laws. And when they get here, the backlog is so great, it could be 7 or 8 years that they're coming up here. So eventually there won't be people living in this country, enough people like us who believe in natural law. So their goal is to basically replace us with these people who don't. So normally people who would come into this country, by the way, would to become citizens, they would go through a process. We'd do a background check, make sure they could give us something instead of us giving them free hotel, phone, food for, to redistrict everything blue. And, they would contribute something to the country. So just keep in mind, that's the Leviathan approach. That's the Borg approach. Let's go here. Uvalde cops were scared. Let's see here. For their safety from the parents. You got that right, Gobstoppa. That was out freaking standing. BZ Watchdog's got something to say. Let's see here. Free chili, support the cattle. Hey, looks like a lot of the people who hate my guts left, guys. So that's kind of cool. I don't know. Put it in the comments if you think a lot of the chili haters are starting to leave because they can see that based on the evidence, Chille didn't do anything wrong. Put it in the comments if you think so, and give me a bunch of FCs and a bunch of OTVOs. Let's do it. All right, man. BZ, I'm going to go. I stuck in a little bit too long. I get the message, Double Dog. All right. Shit. All right, everybody. I'll see you soon. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to comment. Make sure to save. Remember, the Thought Police can take down this channel at any time, guys. So make sure you remember who I am and look me up if you ever see me disappear from YouTube. Semper Fi.